Never forget that all the practices that you do, be it fasting, be it meditation, be it exercise, be it SR, they are all a system to a goal. In essence, they're all a means to an end. And that particular end is just presence, is to be here now, to be in this very moment. That is the fundamental outcome. I think there's a very dangerous trope to self improvement or inner work or any kind of system that promises the betterment of the individual, which is strange coming from an individual that promotes these kinds of things. But I was having a conversation with one of the men inside my Telegram channel, which you can join through the Patreon below. But essentially, it was this: he was asking me about one of these meditation retreats where you sit there for 14 days in complete silence. It's a real kind of detachment and I suppose a process for inner work. That's fundamentally what he was talking about. And he asked me, Joseph, have you ever had one of these experiences? Now, granted, I haven't had these experiences before, although I did have something in my past that forced me to look internally, which was when I spent 28 days in a mental hospital. It did feel like a retreat because, again, I didn't have access to any electronic devices. I had no friends there. I had no family there. I was literally just waiting for the next meal. Like, that was my source of dopamine. So I was just completely starved of any stimulation. And that's the kind of marketing behind these things. You come to this place and it's like a hard reset. Like, if human had a reset button, it's a hard kind of reset. And that real opportunity to offer just really intense introspection. Like, you can't get away from it. You just have to look at yourself very objectively and you go, where am I messing up? What emotional turmoil, what fear, shame, apathy, lethargy do I have that I've never given my space room to confront? And I'm not saying these things can't be resourceful, but I was asking this client, this individual in my group, I was asking, what really is your motivation behind doing this? And it was not too dissimilar from what I described. He said, Joseph, I've felt like I've got a lot of fear and a lot of unresolved desire in me that I haven't had the opportunity to unpack and overcome and stop myself identifying from. And it was actually a very mature answer. I said, that's a really, I'm really glad that I asked the question, because the response allowed the individual the opportunity and the time to actually rationalize, why am I going to do these things? Because often it can be draped and garnered in a kind of false marketing. Like, we like the idea of going to our friends or to our family or to our loved one and saying, hey, I'm going to do this retreat. I'm going to work on myself. Often, again, the idea of saying it, the idea is a lot more attractive than perhaps the utility of the actual event, if that makes sense to you. A lot of people like, again, talking about it, but they don't really glean as much value from the marketing as the product in and of itself. And I was poking and prodding, and it's my I always say this to my clients: is my job as a coach to question your thinking and get you to think critically about doing what you're doing. And one of the outcomes of that was me to kind of pass out and convey the same message that I'm trying to convey to you now, is that so many men wallow and they form their own identities in the self-improvement habit that they're doing. They're caught up in this becoming process that they forget to be, right? They drape themselves and adorn themselves in the ideology of the thing that they forget to just be the thing. It's almost like you're chasing the sunset and you're never sitting and basking in the warm rays of the sun. And that's a really, really important message, because it can taint and dilute your life with a shade of dissatisfaction that you cannot fully be present. You can't fully be here. You're constantly saying to yourself, once I have my meditation habit, once I'm fasting regularly, once I'm exercising and eating right, once I get 90 days of SR, then I can be the man that I want to be. And imagine what this does to your psyche. Imagine what how such a it's a depreciating story that you convey to yourself, and you begin to identify yourself that you're almost near the tip of the mountain, but you never really get there because you constantly tell yourself that there's more obstacles to overcome. Now, I'm not saying that there's no utility in self-improvement, of course not. Contrary to what I'm saying, there's huge utility in it. But as I reach, I'm 30 years old now. I had my birthday, my 30th birthday, about a month and a half ago. And it feels like my 20s to 30s, I've just been steeped in this particular process that you forget to kind of stand still, breathe, take a breath, slow down, and recognize that the version of you 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you would have told him what you were going to achieve in that time and who you were going to be, he would have already said, I'm at the top of the mountain. I can just be content and relax and surrender into the moment and bask in the glory of the sun right in this moment. But there's still this underlying discontentment of where you can be. There's so many individuals that will kill to be where you are, and don't believe it's not the truth. I mean, you might even still be living at home with your parents, but at least you have a home. You might have just got out of university and got your first salary paid job, but it's low wage, it's maybe minimum wage or the lower end of the financial spectrum, but at least you have a means of income. There's always something to be grateful for, but equally and maybe this is predicated on evolution, on survival. It seems to me that we're always looking towards the horizon that we can't fundamentally reach and grasp. And that's why I say to you again, please don't. It is, it is disingenuous. It is undermining of the value of the systems that we use to not look at the presence that we are achieving when we meditate, when we fast, when we exercise. That is the ultimate goal of the thing. It's just to be in the here and now. And these aren't theories, they're facts. Speak soon.